Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. This is Betsy, and I'm here with two super intelligent guys, Douglas Gabriel, Thomas Paine in the Ass of the Globalists, and Michael McKibben of Leader Technologies.
Hello.
And today we're here because we want to give a shout out.
I don't know about the intelligence part.
I know that you guys are pretty smart. Today we wanted to give a shout out to Jim Jordan. Michael, you've met Jim Jordan before. Tell us about him.
The guy's the real deal. Jim Jordan is exactly what you see. He's not different in private than he is in public, and he has impeccable integrity. This is the guy you want leading your country. And so all these attacks against him recently, I take as badges of honor that he's actually doing his job, and we're seeing the criminals, the scoundrels, try to attack him and tear him down. So what I think should happen is as soon as we saw these attacks against him by all these alleged people from 30 years ago in the Larkins Hall at Ohio State's General Gym, we should just ignore what these people are saying. We should stop wasting our time chasing these shadows when these people make up a story, and good people have to then spend all kinds of time and cycles of energy defending shadows that don't exist.
Like another friend of yours, Roger Stone, who had to do that.
Right. Rogers had to spend $200,000 defending himself against false charges. And we've got to stop allowing these people to make us chase down these. You can't prove a negative. So Jim Jordan can't prove he didn't do it. It's impossible. And what I know about Larkins Hall is that was not a private gym for the wrestling department. That was for the entire athletic program at Ohio State and the intramural program. Everybody used that gym. So it's ridiculous to say that that could have happened. But if anybody hasn't been to Ohio State, they don't know how ridiculous the claim is. But what I can tell you about Jim Jordan is anybody that's won 2 NCAA championships as a wrestler is a fighter. And he has courage, and he has a lot of character. He's from a very spiritual family, and he is the representative for a number of our shareholders. And so all I can do is say, Jesus said you'll know them by their fruits. I already know this guy's fruit, and it's good.
That's beautiful. And what they're doing is they're trying to make him a martyr for the cause of congressional oversight of the DOJ, FBI, CIA, NSA. And they're going after him personally on many levels. And we also know that it would probably be from one of those DC oppositional research groups that they're paying the two people who are the big fraudsters who've already, one of them has spent 18 months in jail for fraud. The other one has tried to defraud a veteran who was killed out of money that his family was getting.
And their lawyer is Perkins Coie. How much more do we need to know? Perkins Coie was Barack Obama's personal private legal counsel at the White House during his most corrupt period. And what else do we need to know?
Right, and the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, paid them $12 million to create the fake Trump dossier. And then when they ran out of money, Daniel Jones, who was Dianne Feinstein's Senate Intelligence Committee staffer, went out, got $50 million to continue it. So there's no doubt that we can name Perkins Coie may be bringing the charges against them but they probably didn't pay the fraudsters. They're probably being paid by Daniel Jones, because this is the continuing case of attempting to stop the truth coming out. And Jim Jordan has been one of the major leaders. He is leading the charge. He is one of the generals on the battlefield, and he's giving it his all to make sure that the truth comes out, because this is one of the most ridiculous espionage, meddling in election, coup d'etats that we've ever seen in American history. And he's one of the few people, 5 or 6, in the entire Capitol Hill that is telling the truth about this. So they want to take him out, and they want to do what they did with Devin Nunes. When Devin Nunes revealed that there was unmasking going on in the White House skiff by Susan Rice, what happened? He got knocked out of being the chairman of the Congressional Committee for Intelligence, the Select Committee on Intelligence.
Well, you know what? People need to stop allowing themselves to be knocked out and just ignore this noise.
He waited
because it
for
can't
the
be
Ethics
proven.
Committee. They found it was false. He went right back in and he's continued the battle. I do not think that they'll take him out under an ethics consideration because just as many people have come forward to support him as more have come forward to support him than the accusations that are being made. 6 other coaches have come forward and said it's complete nonsense. Many other students who were there at that time, and people like yourself, eyewitnesses of the scene of the supposed criminal activity, this sexual innuendos that are 28 to 35 years old, complete nonsense.
and the person they're accusing of doing it's dead, so there's no possibility of rebuttal here.
And no charges were ever brought at the time.
Right.
So therefore, where's the statute of limitations in any of this? It doesn't matter. They're just trying to knock him out of what he's doing, and that's congressional oversight. They don't want it to happen. And it's standard operating procedure. He will get through this. We want to say that we support him completely. We have given him an honorary membership in the Anonymous Patriots Conclave.
That
because
comes
his
with
work,
all the cappuccino and cheesecake you can eat.
plus you get to hang out with guys like Michael when he comes around. So Jim, who you have met, we thought was the most honorable person. Then when you told us you knew him, we're completely excited about that.
Right.
And we want to just say that wherever he's getting his intelligence, we must be getting the same intelligence because we agree on so many points. And he is the cutting edge. He's the guy to keep your eye on. But if you believe this nonsense, then you're just believing the political smear campaign that is equivalent to what Fusion GPS does and Daniel Jones does with his PIN group.
Jim pointed to the timing of this event very gently in all of his interviews, but I'll point out directly. It's obvious the timing is such that we know this is fabricated. And anytime you magically go from having nobody making accusations to 5 or 6 people,
You mean like right after the Rod Rosenstein
right after the Rod
questioning?
Rosenstein
Where
fry,
he was dancing around in his seat like...
right, right, and Rod was pointing his finger at Jim Jordan because he was asking difficult questions, and shame on you for asking an SES member difficult questions. And so what we've got here is an attempt at a smear campaign. It's obvious to, I think, everyone, any thinking person, and therefore we should just ignore it and stop allowing these people to waste our time with this kind of tripe.
Absolutely. And we should move on with the agenda, which is Rod Rosenstein, stop obstructing justice. Stop not recusing yourself when you should in all of these cases you're in charge of. And stop, especially, threatening the staff of the Congress, which is what Rod Rosenstein's staff did, and Rod Rosenstein himself literally threatened them repeatedly. Well, isn't it interesting now there seem to be threats against the very person whose staffers were threatened by Rod Rosenstein after he confronts him in public.
That's the way bullies are. I mean, we can see their behavior. They're bullies. And that's all they know how to do. So they're doing what comes naturally. What needs to come naturally to us is we have got to rise above all these accusations and stop allowing them to consume all of our creative cycles on all these lies. That's what we've got to do. Got to figure out a way to do that.
And Jim Jordan isn't only speaking up with this congressional oversight. He's speaking up on every issue. And I've agreed with everything he said in terms of what the House and the Congress people should be doing and the actions they should be taking. Remember, Paul Ryan is a Republican in name only. He has laughed behind Trump's back after he has said publicly one thing, laughed behind his back and said, never, never, never am I going to do what I said publicly or what Trump wants me to do. I'm not going to allow repeal and replace. I'm not going to allow immigration laws to be created properly in the Congress where they belong. I'm not going to allow the president to do his agenda. I'm not going to allow MAGA. Then get out and let Jim Jordan take your job.
You know, one of the things I wanted to add is about the role Ohio State's playing in this accusation against Jim Jordan. We had a not dissimilar occurrence several years ago when the deep state started moving against the former marching band director, John Waters. And they started accusing him of all kinds of sexual things and unfounded accusations and people that allegedly were coming forward when in fact they were not coming forward. So we've been through this cycle with the deep state at Ohio State already, and now we're seeing another round of this. So I predict something. Even though Ohio State's been silent up till now, I predict Ohio State will come in on the side of the accusers.
Now, I know that there's more to that story than you just told. Why is the deep state interested in Ohio State? What's happening over there?
Ohio State, a number of years ago, started implementing the Network Operating Center for a program called MOOC. That's Massive Open Online Course. And the data center at Ohio State was moved off campus after this firing of the marching band director to an off-site location at the state of Ohio's Supercomputer Center, where John Kasich had recently given IBM, I think it was like $268 million to put in new computers to manage this massive open online course, which was basically a consortium of universities across the country that were pumping out common curriculum that would go to all these participating universities. So what better way to centralize your message than to have a data center like this? And so that's what they've done. And John Waters had been very successful at using Apple technology to automate band formations and things like this. And one of his activities got on an Apple commercial, which made a lot of money for the university. And he was bringing too much attention, I believe, to the university for Apple and not IBM. And as we know, IBM Eclipse Foundation stole our technology and is closely aligned with Battelle Memorial Institute in Columbus and Ohio State University. And all the senior leadership at Ohio State are very into this program coming out of Battelle Institute.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned John Kasich's name, because you were recently down in the mines bringing up some intel, and I saw his name on a document. And this was related to the Malik Brown research you were doing on all this election fraud.
That was a shock.
How did John Kasich, how do you say his name?
Kasich.
Kasich. How did that come about?
Well, he used to work in Wall Street after he left Congress before he became a governor. And during that time, he was put on the board of a company. I actually can't remember the name of it. But we started looking at the directors of this board, which included John Kasich, John Bogle, who was the founder of Vanguard, included Silver Lake Capital Partners, included a number of the players that we now know are in the deep state, and they were all associated with this company that was handling a global transactions platform, and John was a part of that. And so we now see a direct connection between John Kasich and Lord Malik Brown,
Wow, that's
i.e.
huge.
vote fraud.
Voter fraud right there in
Right.
Ohio, and you've seen that before.
I'm not
with
I'm not accusing Governor Kasich of that, but he is associated with people who are associated with.
Oh no, Michael. We know that you only bring evidence.
Right.
You wouldn't bring any kind of speculation to the table.
The association is curious.
Yes, it is. It is something that we would want to explore.
Right.
But then it was in Ohio that it was this man in the middle
It was
situation.
That was 2004.
Yeah, so you have a lot of corruption that's going on
Right.
in Ohio with
And
the
that,
deep
by
state.
the way, was involving Karl Rove,
Oh,
who
really?
is SCS in 2004 with Kavanaugh, with Kavanaugh's wife, with all these people we mentioned in the last.
Why is it that the mainstream media and the alternative media still not talking about senior executive service?
I think it's so widespread. There's so many people involved in it. There's so many people's livelihoods and paychecks are associated with it that they're afraid to. That's what I think.
It's huge. Anything in closing now, Thomas?
Isn't it amazing that insinuations of sex crimes far beyond the statute of limitation, and they're only insinuations, they're not even crimes, or they weren't reported at the time, they are so important. They're brought forward. But Bill Clinton, how many women that he raped showed up for the debates? And those are the ones who were willing to come forward when there were many others. How much institutionalized pedophilia is there in Hollywood with Harvey Weinstein just being an example of what has been going on there for decades and decades. So what we're talking about is simply weaponizing political opinion, and what Michael has said is right. We need to take the high road and realize that if all the right people come forward and simply support Jim Jordan, this will simply be put in the past, and it will be the Trump effect, and it will rebound on them, and it will make sure that he gets elected as the Speaker of the House.